What's going on there, guys? We back with another one. And the Sun just dropped an article about Stephen A. Smith and the rift that's been going on behind the scenes with JJ Redick. And also, they had Shannon Sharpe's name in there. Now, the skinny of it is, JJ Redick has been very opinionated when he was coming on First Take. Him and Stephen A. got into it real big over Kawhi and LeBron at times. And, well, not just LeBron, but the Lakers as a whole. Now it looks like JJ Redick may have known something we haven't, and he was taken up like a coach for his potential new team is what it's looking like. But yeah, man, him and Stephen A have been going at it, and the Sun said that, the tensions came to a head over the last few weeks when Stephen A was talking about starting a podcast with LeBron James and also you know, him getting that Lakers job and how black coaches felt about that as far as LeBron's influence on that and them not having an opportunity. So we're gonna explore some of the things that has happened because there's been so much that has happened. We're gonna look at those blowups again. We've checked them out on this channel before, but we're gonna look at them just to kind of show you, give you a reference point for where some of the tension started. And also, we're going to look at what Stephen A said over the last few weeks, and JJ Redick's response is introductory press conference. Let's peep.
Everything he does is for a reason. And whether this is to put a little bit of pressure on the Lakers to improve the roster, whether this is to send a subtweet to his teammates, whatever it is, there's a reason he did this. But I believe there's some earnesty in these comments, and it's not just for a calculated reason. He's coming off year 20, age 38, a long playoff run where he's had to play a ton of minutes with an injury, and it's just human nature that you would begin to say, oh, maybe I'm nearing the end.
Go ahead, Wendy. I mean, I listened to every word JJ just said. I don't understand much of what he just said, but I listen. But go ahead, Wendy.
Well, you didn't play,
first,
Stephen A.
and then I'll try. Exactly.
You didn't play.
I didn't comprehend. I'm sorry.
You don't understand athletic mortality. 3 games at wherever South Dakota, Winston-Salem State doesn't count.
Listen, I got you. I understand. I got a degree, and I'm here on TV with you. I must be doing something right.
Oh, you're definitely doing things right.
You damn right.
But I actually think your Kawhi Leonard take was the worst take of the NBA season.
No.
And I want to say this on air. We would talk about maybe doing this on your podcast. There have been two times on this show where I have referenced the fact that you did not play high-level basketball.
Sure.
In both cases, it was when you talked about retirement for an athlete. Every athlete, every professional athlete dies 2 deaths. They die a death when they have to retire. I told you a million
I'm not
times.
talking
I've
about
done
my
it on this
track
show. I know
I'm not
you
talking
are a
about
legend. You are a legendary journalist. Mike Wilbon is a legendary journalist. That's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about being in the locker room after a game.
Well, what are you talking about then?
This is
you the one that brought it up. I'm asking you what you're talking about.
The day-to-day work that is put in when the cameras are off. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sanctity of a locker room. But it doesn't matter. The sanctity of a practice. We don't have privilege to see inside that. We don't. The Lakers winning the Western Conference because of what Stephen A said. I do not think they can beat the Denver Nuggets.
But see, why do people make all these concessions? Oh, it was a tough back-to-back. It was a this or that.
I'm not
you make concessions for every.
I'm contextualizing the loss last night, Shannon.
I know you do a great job of contextualizing, but let me speak. The problem that I have with you and others is that you make concessions for every other team in the West, not named the Lakers. If the Lakers had lost on a back-to-back, you would have said they're old and tired. Well, let me ask you this. Who are Phoenix wing stoppers on the defensive end? We saw LeBron hunt Kawhi Leonard. We saw LeBron James do what he did. Who's going to guard LeBron James for the Clippers? Who's going to guard LeBron James for Phoenix?
LeBron James didn't hunt Kawhi Leonard in that fourth quarter. Clippers switched more than any team.
They put him in the pick and roll. They put him in the pick and roll.
Daniel Tice on LeBron James in that fourth quarter. He hit 2 transition threes. They messed up. They messed up the first 3. They messed up the switch on Horn's chest. They messed up the switch on Horn's chest. Then he hits 2 transition threes. Then he hits a 3 over Daniel Tice. Now all of a sudden they're forced to double. He was not hunting Kawhi Leonard. Shannon.
Let me ask
He's
you a
not
question.
hunting
If
Kawhi
Kawhi Leonard is what, hold on. If Kawhi Leonard is what you said, why didn't he fight harder over that pick? See, that's what Kobe did. That's what Jordan did. That's what LeBron did when he was in his prime. He fought over picks. So answer that question, Mr. Contextualization.
Shannon, you're going to have to ask Ty Lue that question because, again, that is their defensive strategy.
You. I don't have Ty Lue in front of me.
That has been the strategy for the Los Angeles Clippers.
We're talking about between the 76ers and the Nets, and you asking me who I trust the most. I'm going with the 76ers. And let me ask you this. Me and you both played with Doc Rivers. Do you not trust Doc Rivers when you had one of your best seasons and was having some of your best seasons under Doc Rivers?
Of course. Of course.
Okay, so
Doc
do you
Rivers,
not
I mean, if we're being frank,
Doc,
Doc Rivers has also blown a lot of playoff series leads. So he's the only coach to do it more than once, and he's done it 3 times in terms of having a 3-1 lead. And that's not on him. That's on the players, too. I was part of one of those. I'll admit it was on me, too. I'm not blaming Doc.
I mean, to be honest, he just didn't have them. He didn't have them dogs when he blew them leads. See, he didn't blow leads when he was with the Celtics because he had them dogs. He didn't blow leads.
Now
when
you're
he
getting
was with
personal.
No, it's not getting personal. No, it's not getting personal, JJ. I'm just telling you.
I mean, your points are valid. And I'm posing questions to you, and you're doing a fantastic job of answering them.
And the purpose for those clips was kind of to show some of the riffs with some of the main personalities on First Take, right? You saw one with Perk, which was the last clip. You saw Shannon Sharpe, going in on JJ Redick. Because JJ Redick, a lot of times the way he comes off to people is it seems like he's always the smartest guy in the room. And that can offend people, very heavily when you always think you know everything about everything more than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And so, especially when you new to the room, right? And we saw those several riffs with Stephen A. Smith. I ain't gonna go down the rabbit hole. Just want to kind of to give you a reference point of like the origin of some of these problems, and they were much deeper. Stephen A. would come on after the fact and say, JJ Redick, that's my boy. We argue sometimes, but I love that brother. He comes and he does all that, but that's not the beginning and end of it. It seems like they make him say that. You know what I'm saying? Or he just tries to say it to smooth it over. I ain't even gonna say they make him say it, but he always says that type of thing, and it's coming out now that, no, this has been a bigger issue behind the scenes after these things take place. So this is what Stephen A. Smith said recently to kind of end their friendship for the most part.
That he and JJ had that podcast, Mind the Game, and it's supposed to be X's and O's. Let me tell you something. If you ever want to start a podcast, and this is what I tell Stephen A., you got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to branch out. Because if all you talk about X's and O's, it ain't going to last very long. You have to talk about other things.
Perk been saying that for months.
All right.
What I can tell you is this. Numerous coaches, black coaches, called me expressing how they took issue with that podcast taking place. And I think you know enough to know that that's true. Some of them felt very salty about that. We certainly are not blaming JJ Redick. You got your podcast. Maverick Carter approaches you about doing this idea. Who the hell would? I jump at the opportunity.
Wait, can I pause you on that? They were salty because he chose to do a podcast with a white guy, or because it hurt Darvin Ham?
Because it hurt Darvin Ham.
Okay.
Because it hurt Darvin Ham. So any of us would do a podcast with LeBron James. Anybody who says otherwise, that they wouldn't do a podcast with LeBron James, is lying through their damn teeth. I know I would. I know you would. I know Wendy would. I know anybody would. That would be an honor for us because he's one of the greatest who have ever played, and he's a basketball savant. So we're not faulting JJ in any way for doing the podcast or for the content on the podcast with LeBron James. But at some point in time, we do have to do this, Jay. As I said to Wendy last week, we have to remember the things that we've said about LeBron James as it pertains to his brilliance, as it pertains to controlling a narrative, as it pertains to being 2, 3, 5 steps ahead of others in terms of what you're plotting and what you're planning and what have you. And then that'll raise an antenna. We knew before the podcast ever started that Darvin Ham was on a hot seat. We knew this. Now, in fairness to LeBron James, when the news came out, hell, we celebrated it right here on this show. Oh, it's going to be great. And mind the game. They're talking the game. I mean, they're talking basketball. It's fantastic. I mean, J.J. Redick's a brilliant basketball mind. LeBron James, we know what he is. No problem. But as the podcast gained steam, and then the spotlight became more magnifying for Darvin Ham, and then you saw an Anthony Davis after game 2 against Denver talk about how lost and, we just weren't on the same page. We just seemed to be out of sync, et cetera, et cetera. We saw all of these things. Then we started having the others, and not necessarily us as a show, Jay, just the industry itself.
Yep.
Everybody was talking about how LeBron's had all of these coaches. You've never really heard him speak up for a coach, even though Rich Paul and them would say he spoke up for Ty Lue and stuff like that. We thought Ty Lue should have got the job. The Lakers shouldn't have been in a position trying to tell him to pick his staff, trying to underpay him, all of this other kind of stuff. We looked at all of those things, and we said, you take all of those things into account, this does not look good. That you got to and what I was saying on the air with Wendy last week and Molly was that couldn't have started it during the playoffs. Couldn't have started it after Darvin Ham lost the job. Did you have to start it in the middle of the damn season? Because of the situation LeBron James and his camp created by doing that podcast in the middle of the season, knowing that Darvin Ham was on a hot seat. I don't care what anybody says. That was a very egregious thing to do. I'm not talking about the podcast. Wendy knows I'm not doing this. Wendy knows I'm not doing this. I'm not talking about the podcast itself. I'm talking about the timing. The Lakers get eliminated and LeBron James and JJ do their podcast. It's no problem. This summer starts, they're doing their podcast. It's no problem. Darvin Ham was on the hot seat. And that's when LeBron James, in the middle of the season, decides to do a podcast with a brilliant cerebral basketball mind, and they're breaking down plays. They're talking plays. They're talking, am I lying, Wendy? They're talking plays. They're talking schemes. They're talking strategies. They're talking all of these things. Say what? You never seen what before, Wendy? I've never seen what before?
I've never seen, this is a new thing I've never done in the NBA, what you're talking about this podcast. Never seen.
What I can tell you is this. Numerous coaches, black coaches, called me expressing how they took issue with that podcast taking place. And I think you know enough to know that that's true. Some of them felt very salty about that.
So after that last clip, when J.J. Redick was officially hired to become the Lakers' next head coach, he had some comments for all his detractors and people that's been making statements about, the Lakers' courtship with him accepting the job, and the task that's ahead of him.
It's a valid question, and I've certainly heard everything. It's been a really interesting 6 weeks or so, just in terms of being part of the engagement farming industry. It's been really interesting. However, I don't really have a great answer for your question because I really don't give a fuck. Honestly, I want to coach the Lakers. I want to coach the team. I don't want to dispel anything. I don't. I want to become a great coach in the NBA, and I want to win championships, and I want my players to maximize their careers.
And I don't think I'm out of pocket by speaking on behalf of this entire show with Molly, yourself, Shay, Legs, and everybody else. To J.J. Redick, number one, congratulations. And number two, I don't know how I work at other networks, but we root for our teammates here. So make no mistake about it. All of us are rooting for you. All of us want you to succeed, JJ. Congratulations. And we hope that you make the Lakers a raving success and you have a very prosperous coaching career. That's what we do here.
So, yeah, that was Stephen A's response to JJ's comments. And, man, it's a lot to unpack there. But it was a lot of think pieces coming out around the JJ Redick hiring, them selecting Bronny, and pretty much that LeBron had, the Lakers by the collar and had his arm up their back like a ventriloquist, and really having them just make the decisions that he wanted to make. Bronny at 55th pick, no summer league, no nothing. 4-year guaranteed deal. And, it's a lot to say about that, but I won't touch on that. We're talking about J.J. Redick and Stephen A. Smith and this report that came out that their friendship is pretty much done. And what I will say is for JJ Redick, him coming on the First Take platform, I think it provided him uh, some more exposure as far as his knowledge of the game. And yeah, he had his podcast that he did a great job on. Not the one with LeBron, but the one before that. Then him and LeBron had that podcast. And then it looked like they were going to just talk the game and go over some schemes. And then it turned into a narrative history rewriting type of thing where it was a quick turn off for me from the podcast. But again, these guys are knowledgeable. JJ has an opportunity to go out there and become a great coach. You just wonder when he gets on certain players how much of it comes from LeBron. Is he even going to get on LeBron? Will he be able to coach Bronny the same way? Is Bronny going to be forced to be inserted in competitive games? I mean, we just looking at everything around the board, right? And so there's so much to unpack, but the the toxicity level for that environment um is definitely one of those environments that could be on 10 next year is what I want to say without saying too much. Like, I think, to the point where like a AD or somebody could become unhappy. But they have a decent team. We're gonna see what they do. But the toxicity level of that squad, man, I don't know, man. I want it to I ain't even gonna say I want it to work out. I want what's best for Bronny though, because I don't feel like he had much of a choice in all of this. And so if he walks into that and it's just mad toxic the whole time, I would feel bad for the kid. Because me personally, I think Bronny could have been a legit NBA player on his own after about 3 years. I think he would have been able to earn it by that point because he does have the athleticism, quickness, speed, and different things like that that the NBA requires. And he's not like uh, a dumb basketball player. He makes smart play and everything. So I think Bronny could have got there without his dad, but I think his dad accelerated the process for him to play with him. And so, hey, it is what it is, right? And JJ Redick is walking into all of that. But yeah, man, they're saying that JJ and Stephen A don't even talk to each other no more after some of this stuff came out. Specifically when he hasn't been on the show as much and when he was leaning more into getting that Lakers job. I think he was on there a few times after he interviewed for the Charlotte job. But when the things got serious with the Lakers, he kind of just took a step back, and he's appeared on other not NBA. He's appeared on other ESPN shows though. In that time, even in the finals, he was on an ESPN show. He just didn't come on First Take. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is, man. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, peace.